Hi everybody, it's Carol. I'm back again, and I'll just wait a bit to see if anybody hops on, because I know there are a few people who are hoping to join in. The cat is fussing around, so he may come and join in. Should be very nice. Anyway, so today, what I want to talk about, and really it's probably the million-dollar question, and maybe something that most people, when they're starting their sugar-free journey, think about, and even if they've been doing sugar-free for a few months, and it's probably something people say to them, is sugar-free living sustainable? Now, of course, what I'm going to say is absolutely it is sustainable. But I really qualify that with saying, I think how you start out on your sugar-free journey, how you set your goals for your sugar-free journey will make the chance of it being something sustainable much more possible. So I'm going to talk a bit today about how we can start our sugar-free journey off in a way that makes it something that is achievable to be sugar-free in the long term. So I hope that makes sense. I sound like I'm a bit today, but I'm going with it. So I had a question today from somebody who wants to sign up for my course, and she was just clarifying something. She's somebody who's got a health challenge at the moment, and she was interested in signing up for the Nourish Yourself to Sugar Freedom course. And her question was, is it okay to sign up for your course because I don't need to lose weight and absolutely don't want to lose any weight? You know, she's incredibly slim naturally, and it's important she maintains that weight through her health challenge. And she's really clear that she doesn't want to be completely sugar-free. She's, doesn't feel that she is addicted, but she does feel that she needs to have maybe a healthier, more rounded approach to what she eats. And she said, would that be okay to join in? Would that fit with the ethos of the course? So if anybody else out there is sort of sitting on the fence and they're wondering sort of the same thing about this course, does it mean I absolutely have to give up sugar and it's like a protocol and it's, this is what we do on this course? I want to say absolutely. At this point, it's absolutely not the case. The whole idea of Nourish Yourself to Sugar Freedom is it's about making your sugar-free journey absolutely your own. And everybody will have their own approach to this. There is no food police. I'm absolutely not the food police. I don't make any goals or have any expectations about how anybody approaches reducing the amount of sugar they eat, whether they just reduce it a bit, whether they cut it out completely. That is all part of the journey. That's all part of the adventure of discovering, how much does sugar really influence my life? And I think for a lot of us, we don't really know because it's such an acceptable drug of choice, if you like, within our culture, that we just eat it and we have our response to it and we don't really think about is it good or bad. And it's only when we try to reduce it a bit or give it up that we think, this is a bit harder than I thought. I'm feeling a bit yuck, or I'm feeling a bit emotional. And that's the beauty of Nourish Yourself to Sugar Freedom. What it does is it gives you that space. It's a much smaller group where you can explore your own sugar-free journey. I give you all the information of how you can nourish yourself so you feel much better about giving up sugar. But if all you want to do is just add in more nourishment and reduce most of the sugar out of your diet while still allowing yourself, or having a bit of honey on your cereal in the morning or whatever. You know, it's for everybody to make their own decisions. This isn't a protocol. I don't say this is what you have to eat in this week, this is what you have to do. I give you the framework that you can then go and explore on your own. I treat all food journeys as very, very tender emotional spaces. You know, I've been there. I've been in a place where I felt quite addicted to sugar, felt very addicted to sugar, that it has been an emotional crutch for me in my life, you know, and through terrible times, it was a great friend to me. And if somebody told me that I had to completely take it away before I felt absolutely okay with doing that, then I would have just blanked it and I would not have been able to engage. So what I want to say to anybody out there who feels like the course might be a pressure to be completely sugar-free, please don't take it like that. Please see it as an opportunity to dive much more into exploring, you know, life for you without sugar, how that could be, what you could eat, and you set your own pace. You set your own pace completely. At the end, you know, if you start the course and then at the end of the course, at the end of the 9 weeks, you are still eating a little bit of sugar, but what you've added in to your diet is huge in terms of nourishment, then I count that as an absolute win. You know, I think that is amazing, because what you're doing is you're helping your body nourish itself and heal itself, while also balancing the goodies against the sugar. So that's the first thing I really wanted to say, because it's really great when people email me and ask me those questions, because it makes me think, okay, I need to make that really clear, because I think, you know, some people have said to me, I feel a bit scared. I feel a bit scared about starting this sugar-free journey. It feels scary, you know, and it's like, yeah, I remember feeling a bit scared, because the thought of living without it felt completely overwhelming, felt completely impossible. It didn't feel like it could be possible, but I was willing just to try one step at a time, because I'd absolutely got to that final straw of I cannot carry on treating my body like this and showing up in the world. For me, I cannot carry on doing that and be a nutritional therapist showing up in the world, supporting people with food when I haven't, you know, dealt with my own food stuff. And, you know, that's a lifelong journey for me. You know, it'll carry on. And, you know, my little thing at the moment is I need to drink more water. So I'm on a mission to drink more water, because I tell everybody you've got to drink more water. So I'm telling myself I have to drink more water. So that's what I want to say just to start with before we start off. So is sugar-free sustainable? Now, I've been doing a lot of reading and listening and researching around making habits sustainable. And the key amount of time seems to be around 66 days in terms of how do we make habits that we can then carry forward with ease. And so 66 days seems to be the magic number. So what I've done with this course, it's usually a 6 weeks course, I've added a three weeks extra of support. Now, you don't get any new content in those extra 3 weeks, but what you do get is you get 3 weeks extra support. So I'll be in the group every week doing a live Q&A. So there will be that held support in that smaller group for an extra 3 weeks. And that should get us pretty close to those 66 days. And so that means that when you get to the course, whatever habits you want to develop, you are well on that way. So in terms of when we start out, how can we approach the whole sugar-free journey with the view that we're actually making a change for the rest of our life, as much as we can say, because who knows what's around the corner. Curveballs always happen, health things always happen. But, you know, to be honest, there's nothing bad about being sugar-free in terms of our health, in terms of our lifestyle, nothing at all. It's only positive things to gain. So the first thing I always say to people is when they join Nourish Yourself to Sugar Freedom, when they decide to go on a sugar-free journey. Hi, Amanda. That's fantastic. I'm so glad you really resonate with what I'm saying. That's fantastic. So the first thing to say is start off with the idea that this is not a diet. And there's lots of people who join the course who have weight balance as a goal. And we talked about weight balance yesterday in the live. And I think a lot of people get into the idea that, you know, they want to lose weight and that's one of their goals. And therefore they get into that rhythm of, this is what I have to do and I have to weigh myself every week and this is a goal and it has an end point. So what I like to say to people, this is a lifestyle change. This isn't a diet. This is a short-term project with a long-term vision, opening out, you know, into something that you can take forward. And I like to say, this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is something we don't have to rush at. This is about making slow, sustainable changes. And people often with food, they're a bit all or nothing. They can be. It's like, okay, I'm absolutely not going to do that. But I'm going to do this. And actually what our body really likes is that time to make adjustments, that time to make slow changes that feels really comfortable within the body. And when I talked about cravings, you know, then when we make those changes, when we start being sugar-free and cutting challenging foods out of our diet generally, what happens is our cells that have been, you know, quite challenged because of challenging food suddenly have more energy for cleansing. So what we want is to make those changes slowly so our cells in our body can keep up with us, so we don't feel overwhelmed with feeling yuck. The slower the changes, the more easeful the change will be. And so that is the first thing, to go into the idea. You've got these 9 weeks, or if you're doing it just within the group, just by yourself, then you've got lots of time just to explore slowly how sugar really affects you. You know, how does it feel not to have sugar for a day? Does that make sense? Or does it not really have an impact till you get to day 5? And then all of a sudden, you know, your blood sugar crashes out, you start to get spots, you know, it's an adventure. Everybody is completely different. There is no single way that is the correct way to have this journey. All it is about going, okay, I'm open to exploring how I can be sugar-free. How does my body feel when I'm sugar-free? How does it feel when I'm sugar-free and then I have a pudding at the weekend? Do I feel yuck? You know, there's something about, you know, because so many people eat the same things all the time. They never have that opportunity to experience what it's like not to have sugar, and then what it's like not to have sugar and then to put it back in. And sometimes when you take something out, your body has a clear space and it feels like, wow, I've got more energy. And then you put it back in and you feel completely yuck and you go, oh my goodness, that's how I felt all the time, and I didn't realize that. So I always am quite excited when people say, oh, I've fallen off the wagon, oh, it's terrible, I've eaten sugar and I shouldn't have done. I go, no, because they usually say, I feel really rubbish, I feel really rubbish. And it's like, that's great, because now you know the real impact that sugar has on your body. So that's the first thing to do. It's about having a broad goal, seeing this as a journey. There's no end point. It's not, you know, there might be an end point for some people. People might say, I'm really going to follow this because I find it really hard and I need that structure. But for other people, like the woman who contacted me, she just wants some broad education about how sugar affects our health and how she can heal her body by adding in food and taking some sugar out. So it's like having that broad approach. We don't have to be absolute. You know, food has been a way that we can beat ourselves up and beat ourselves up over our bodies forever. There's so many people out there, and I say particularly women, but certainly not exclusively women, who use food as a stick to beat themselves with when they don't follow diets. This is not a diet. This is about exploring how it could be to live sugar-free. And yeah, I feel really passionate about that, really, really passionate. Yeah, Amanda's just said, my body bloats with too much sugar. It feels awful. Yeah, I can imagine. I occasionally have some processed carbs, just very occasionally, you know, if it fits in with a family meal. And I get aching feeling just in my sinuses, you know, and I don't eat much, but I feel the effect. So it's really good. So yeah, Angela has said, my hot flushes are much worse after having sugar. This is an interesting journey. Yeah, seriously. I mean, I'm 56 now, so I'm been through the menopause. And certainly when I stopped sugar, I didn't really have terrible hot flushes, but they completely went. And now I have occasional warm feelings, but really, I mean, occasionally, like once every 2 weeks or something. So yes, I agree, absolutely. For people who, for women, you know, in the perimenopause and after the menopause, who are still experiencing hot flushes, not having sugar can be really, it can be really make a big difference. So, okay, so we've like said about the approach towards your sugar-free journey. So now the way to make it sustainable is just to take small steps every day. But my weakness is one way my body benefits from a very sugar diet. I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but I'm not sure what you're saying there, Amanda. Yeah, I mean, low sugar, very low sugar diet, if that works for you, absolutely. Absolutely. We don't have to be completely clear if that doesn't suit us. I mean, most people would probably be able to do that. Again, I wouldn't, but for some people they can. So how do we then, once we've set our broad goal, what is the next bit? The next bit is to take action steps every day, small steps. We only have to think of our next best step. We just need to decide, okay, what am I going to do today? How can I make it easy for myself to start this sugar-free journey? And one way I did this for myself is to make myself lists, to make it really clear what I could eat at this delicate, tender, early stages where I was going to be craving, where, you know, this felt like an emotional struggle to give up sugar, where I was not sure if I was going to fail again, all those fear things that come in, is I planned it really carefully. So I made myself a meal plan. I made myself lists of different meals I could have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks. I made sure I was prepared when I went anywhere, because when I first started, I was quite fearful that I would have a blood sugar crash. I would feel a bit sick, I would feel a bit overwhelmed, I'd feel a bit emotional, and I wouldn't be able to deal with it. So what I did is I prepared for that eventuality by always taking a snack with me, by always having something in the car that I could grab if I wanted to. To start with, it was usually a piece of fruit and some nuts. Really simple, didn't have to be very complicated. It was just a really simple way of making sure I was anticipating anything that was coming up. Now, just doing that every day, being prepared every day, looking at my list, deciding, okay, that is what I'm going to eat today. That is what my snack's going to be if I need a snack. That just made me feel immediately more spacious, immediately more, oh, thank goodness for that, I'm covered. There's not going to be something that happens that I'm not going to be able to deal with, because I know what I'm eating. I know that that's what I'm going to have, and it's sugar-free. That's what my snack is. And it just made it much more easy. And then, of course, you're not doing it in a random way. You're doing it in an organized way. You're not being reactive. You're actually planning in advance and being organized. And what we do on the course is the first week is preparing our body and preparing our fridge, and maybe making some plans about how we're going to step into our sugar-free way of living, how we're going to do this, how we're going to make it work for us. Now, you know, again, that's why there's no protocol. I've got, you know, there's over 60 recipes in there, but that doesn't mean they have to be your recipes. You can, you know, have all your favorite recipes as long, you know, as long as they don't contain sugar, if that's what you want to do. You can, you know, use your own recipe books and go, okay, I'm gonna, that's, you know, roast dinner, wonderful, roast dinner. Everybody loves a roast dinner, you know, chops and vegetables, you know, or, you know, fish, you know, it doesn't have to be my recipes. My recipes are there to inspire you. Most of them are vegetarian or vegan, because I'm encouraging people to add in more nourishment. You know, plant-based nourishment is a really big source of nourishment, and most people, you know, eat meat, so actually when the recipes they get stuck on are more plant-based, so that's why I've done it that way. And it's also the way I cooked for 30 years. I'm not vegetarian or vegan now, but that's the way I cooked for my family over, you know, 30 years, and it's a way that I generally eat throughout the week. I so often have meat at the weekend with my partner because he loves his meat, but most of the time I don't. You know, I will stick to soups, vegetable chilies, all those things. So again, so that's the way you can make it sustainable, by choosing, making lists, planning out, and keeping going one step at a time. Now, what happens when you do this is all of a sudden you become the person who doesn't eat sugar. And I talked earlier, I think it was a live previously, and it might have been before Christmas, and I talked about how being sugar-free has to become part of your identity for it to be sustainable. That it's a bit like when people say, I'm a vegetarian or I'm a vegan. It's actually a part of their identity. It's what they, it's, you know, it's a statement about their values around food, you know. And I mean, to be honest, I rarely say to people, I don't eat sugar, I just eat around it, unless people push something in my face and say, oh, go on, have a piece of cake, or go on, have this. And then I will say, actually, no, I won't, because I'm sugar-free at the moment. And then I have my list in my head of how I say no, thank you, in a way that feels good to me and feels honouring of my journey and respectful of their offering of me for food. So it's, yeah, so what happens over these days as we tread towards these magic number of 66 days where, you know, we've made a habit sustainable, we are every day, by reinforcing those things, it's becoming more of our identity. It's becoming who we are. It's becoming the way we approach our health. It's a way we take control of our health, and it's a way we you know, yeah, take control, feel empowered about food. We make choices around food. And for some people that will be absolutely, I don't ever eat sugar, like me. But for some people, they'll say, generally I don't, but if I'm going out to a meal with somebody and a friend's made a lovely cake, I might have it. But that can only happen if you've explored your bottom lines. So let me just see if there's any questions before I talk about bottom lines. Water kefir is one way. Oh, okay. Water kefir. I think, to be honest, Amanda, in water kefir, as in kombucha, because I have some kombucha, again, there's a tiny bit of sugar left in there, but it's such a small amount. And I sort of balance that with, the benefits, as you're saying, the benefits of having a probiotic drink every day in terms of healing the gut, especially after decades of, abuse from a sugar-full diet. I'm talking about myself there, not you, but that's fantastic. As you say, that's tiny. I sort of have this rule about sugar in terms of medicine. So I would sort of see, you know, kefir, kombucha that has a tiny bit of sugar in there. It's a bit like if, you know, somebody messaged me a while ago and said I've got a really sore throat. I would have lemon and honey for my throat, but honey is sugar. Should I have it? And I would say just have it. You know, it's about the intention behind it. If you set the intention that I'm having, you know, this in a medicinal way, it's part of my healing, you know, it's a conscious choice, then I would say just go for it. Because I think sometimes if we're so tight, that makes us just want to burst out of that restriction and just eat more. So yeah, so bottom line, so taking it forward, we've got to our 66 days or whatever, and we got to the point where we feel quite established in our habits. That's the point that we can be a bit more, really explore the flexibility of our bottom lines. So what I mean by that is, so for the first probably 6 or 9 months of being sugar-free, I was absolute. I had no sugar, and that meant no juices, no smoothies, no dried fruit, no honey, no syrups, no all the obvious things. And I also had absolutely no processed carbs, so no wheat products, no bread, no, you know, definitely none of the sweet breads, because they are terrible for me. And I things like croissants, hot cross buns, I mean, they'd throw me under the bus in a second. So I was absolute about that. And then when I felt quite confident that I knew how to be sugar-free, I knew what my routine was, I knew what my meals were, the meal, you know, I got into this habit, it had become my identity. I was a person who did sugar-free living. Then I felt able to go, okay, so is there any give in these bottom lines? Is there, you know, do I have to be absolute about this, like no sugar, no flour ever? For some people that might be the case, but what I did is I just occasionally had some, and I think the first time I did it was probably over a year actually. I'd been sugar-free for a year. I went out for a meal for my partner's birthday, and we had some soup at a restaurant, and there was some lovely crusty bread, and I just thought I'm just going to have a small amount and just see how it makes me feel. And my measure of how it makes me feel is, okay, how does it make me feel physically, but how does it make me feel emotionally? Does it trigger me into thinking, now I want to have some crisps, now I want to have some chocolate? And, you know, I get led towards being thrown under the bus, and that's what I wanted to explore. Now, as I said to you, when I have some white flour products or whatever, or bread, when I have had that, I get sort of a congestion feeling in my sinuses. So I did feel like that, and the next morning I felt slightly tight in my body, but I didn't feel any urge to have any more sugary or flour products. So for me, that felt like a win. I thought, okay, it's not something I'm going to include every day. Like, I don't buy myself bread apart from the Biona rye bread, which is very whole grain, which has an incredible low glycemic index, glycemic load, so it doesn't actually affect your blood sugar. So it's a bit like pumpernickel bread, it's that dense. I occasionally have a slice of that, and I'm talking about once a month maybe. So I don't generally buy any crackers or bread. I don't buy it for my house. So my rule now is occasionally, now my habits are established, if I go out for a meal and I want to have, say, a pie and it's got a crust on it, or I want to have soup and it's got crusty bread with it, and I feel like it, I might have a small amount. And I feel confident now in my body that that's going to be absolutely fine. And that sort of thing probably happens once a month, once every 3 weeks, I might have something. And that gives me a bit of breathing space around those rules about no sugar, no flour. And all that means is when I'm at and I don't have a pudding because I don't have sugar, and that's fine. I don't even think about that anymore. So that's the next step on about making it sustainable. You create the habits, you become that identity, and then you see what flexibility you've got in the everyday to play with. And once you get to that point, that's why you almost have to wait till you've got to your 66 days to the habits feel like they're quite grounded in, because you need to be quite honest with yourself. Because again, you know, if you've been addicted to sugar, as I have been, you know, it can be sneaky. These addictions can be sneaky. You know, they can sort of, you can just sort of, you know, tell little porcupines to yourself about, oh, it won't be okay. It's just a small amount. And, well, I had some bread when we went out on Friday night. Maybe I'll just get a nice loaf for the weekend. It's like, no, that was an isolated thing, because I know if I had a nice little bit of bread with my soup on a Friday night with a meal and then bought a loaf of bread for the weekend, that would then start to feed into that that old habit, that whole old neural pathway in my brain that said, okay, bread's all right, bread's all right, bread's all right. And then before I'd known it, I'd probably eaten half the loaf of bread because it's so delicious. You know, crusty bread with some butter, what's not to like? You know, and I get into that game with myself again. So, but you have to be established enough in your habits for you to get to that point of going, okay, how did that feel? Isolated incident again. This is a one-off, I'm just trying it. Then I'm going to step back and review it. So let me just see if there's any more questions. No more questions at the moment, that's good. Well, not good, there's no questions. Please ask questions. So I'm hoping this is resonating with people. I think it probably is. It's something I've thought about a lot, you know, because I feel very set in my sugar-free living. I do think about it. Of course, I think about it every day because I come to the group and I want to share my wisdom. But in terms of my habits around my food, it's really easy. It's so easy for me. In fact, it's easier than it's ever been in my whole life, because I don't have the, you know, sugar demons sort of sat on my shoulder twittering to me, beckoning me to the cracker tin or to get some chocolate when I'm in the shop. Or gosh, I noticed yesterday I went to the shop, there's hot cross buns in the shop already, hot cross buns, and the woman in front of me, they were just put by the till, and a woman picked them up, and I had a little conversation with her about hot cross buns, because I loved hot cross buns, I really did. I loved them untoasted with butter or toasted with butter. Loved them. But, you know, there was not one single cell in my body not that wanted to pick those up and take them home, because the gold is that my mind is free. My mind is free. I look at those and think, oh yeah, I remember those. But you know what? I feel so happy being able to make free choices, to not be thrown under the bus every other day with my food, that is worth everything to me, you know. And that's what happens when you get to that point. And I think, you know, there are quite a few people in the group who have been sugar-free longer than me, you know, but I can see how people can get there. I can see how you can do that for 10 years. You know, once you get and you've established those habits, once it becomes part of your identity, once you know what flexibility you've got with your bottom lines, you just carry on. It's just, you become one of those people who eats healthily, who balances their weight naturally, who overeats one day and then doesn't eat much the next day because they're just not hungry. You know, those people that I used to look at and think, how do those people do it? You know, my late husband was one of those people. It's like, how do you do it? Well, I know how they do it because I'm doing it now, but I had to become that person. I had to become that person that didn't medicate with food or didn't overeat with food. And, you know, I had to give myself time to do that and build the habits, become my identity, know what I could give on and what I couldn't. And the reality is that, you know, for some people, they can eat what they want, when they want. They could really, you know, pig out over Christmas, eat loads of sweets and bread and whatever, decide, okay, back to normal today and carry on and just eat a healthy diet. That's what my late husband was like. He wasn't remotely addicted to any food. He would just love it in the moment and then just hop back on normal eating, and it would be great. You know, for me, I'm not that person, and I probably like to say that for a lot of people in this group, they're probably like me and not like that either. That's why you're in the group. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say today. I've gone on long enough. Please, there's only 2 days left. 2 days left to get the benefit of the early bird offer. You get a whole third off the cost by joining before Thursday. And this is for 9 weeks support, 6 weeks of content, and then 3 extra weeks of support. I'm actually also going to try, somebody emailed me last night who did the course and said, did I have a PDF of all the recipes? And I said I didn't, because they're all on the learning platform. And she said it would be great to be able to download them all. And I thought, actually, that might be another bonus that I'm going to put together for this round. So hopefully, now I've said it out loud to the group, I'm hoping there's going to be a PDF with all the recipes that people can download if they would like, and then they can have the photos on their computer much more accessible, or on their tablet, or on their phone. So yeah, please, if you're interested or have any questions, you can just PM me or ask in the thread. Usually if there's a question about the course, if you have that question, then other people will have it too, so don't feel shy. There was a couple of questions in my Q&A today. I just realised I said I'd answer. Deb asked about aubergines. Do you know what? I love aubergines in a curry, Deb. So really look up some recipes for curry. And if you don't want to make your own curry paste up, Patak's curry paste has no sugar in. It's just packed full of spices, and I love it. And Jan asked about, you'd had some sugar-free jam, but then you had as you called it, a colonics in the night, and you had some white stuff in the jam. So I actually don't know what was in the jam. I haven't got a clue. I wonder, you can often make your own jam, and I have done in the past by cooking up some frozen berries or blueberries and adding some chia seeds. And the chia seeds sort of set the jam, if you like, in there, and it's really nice on some rye toast or on top of porridge. So I don't know, you could maybe try that. If you have a look in the recipe section of this page, there might be a recipe there for chia jam. If you have a look and it's not there, just have a post or PM me and I'll send you a copy of the recipe. So anyway, I'm going to hop off, and please ask any questions. And yeah, I'm going to download this and put it up on my website, so it'll always be there if you want to catch. But of course, it's always going to be in the group if you know, in the video section of this group. Okie doke, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I will be on again tomorrow talking about something else sugar-free and nudging you along just so you don't miss out on the offer. So lots of love to you all, and take care for now. Bye bye. Bye bye.